So at this point right now, we've roughly mapped the entire menstrual cycle onto the creative cycle. And from the metal element, we then loop back into the water element and then it continues into the next cycle. I wanted to check in with all of you here to hear how you're feeling about this perspective and this angle with regards to the menstrual cycle, with regards to the creative cycle. Alexandra, I'm glad this is resonating with you. I'm so glad to hear that. I'll give a few more moments in case anyone would like to share. Information can be found so easily now with the internet, with our access to books, or to people, to wisdom online. Instead, what I want to invite you to connect with today is insight, true insight through your felt experience. And we don't receive this through our brains. We receive this through our hearts, through our intuition, through this sense of deeper knowing that I truly believe that all of us have this sense and that we can receive. So I want to invite you to take a few moments to pause whatever is happening in your mind, in your environment. Pause and take a moment to let all of what we've shared in our circle today, including your questions, including your personal experiences, including your memories, your experiences with your menstrual cycle, with all the beliefs you've held that maybe you have inherited from someone else, from society, from work, from your relationships. Take a moment to allow all of this to come into you. And then with the next breath in, allow one thing, perhaps just one thing, to come to surface. Maybe it is an insight. Maybe it is a longing. Maybe it is something you want to do. Maybe it is someone you want to connect with. Just one thing that you would like to bring with you as our circle comes to an end. And know that this is a continued dialogue, and I want to continue to share this work, and I will be actively sharing the work of the creative cycle, of course, a little bit less on the menstrual cycle, because again, the menstrual cycle is just one of the many ways to experience the creative cycle. But I wanted to today, on World Menstrual Hygiene Day, to draw awareness to this topic and root this in the creative cycle, to remind you and to remind myself and all of us that we are as legitimate as the moon, as a bird, as springtime, as the unfolding of nature. So you are a cyclical being. How might you begin to see yourself and to treat your body in this way? And how can you flow with the seasons? Right? If you live in a place with 4 seasons, maybe you eat seasonally. Perhaps you might start to experience your menstrual cycle in the same way, noticing your fluctuating moods, your fluctuating energy levels, your shifting sense of self, and your shifting sense of relationships with others and with the world. So let's take maybe the next 5 to 7 moments in silence. I will stop speaking and I invite you, if it feels good for you, you can let one hand rest on the heart and the other hand to rest on the lower belly area. And we're going to send the breath from the heart down into the womb space. And from the womb space, imagine you send the breath back to the heart as if they are communicating to each other. If your heart could speak to the womb, what would your heart say? So you take a deep breath in. And as you breathe out, send the breath from your heart down into the space of your womb. And from your womb space, this watery space, and let the message of your womb be sent back into the heart. Let's do this for 4 more rounds, following your own rhythm, your own breath. You're welcome to linger here, allowing these two sacred spaces to connect and to communicate with each other. When you feel you're ready to conclude this experience, you can let both of your palms gently rest on the womb space, on the lower belly, acknowledging the space, maybe saying hi. And then if your eyes are closed, gently letting your eyes blink open. If anything came to you during these couple of breaths, you want to share it in our circle today. There is in psychology what is called the advice giving effect. When we give advice to someone else, they found through scientific research that the person that benefits the most is not the other person, it's ourselves, because advice is specific. So let's take the next couple of moments. And if you were to give advice to someone you love who is having a menstrual cycle or has had a menstrual cycle, what would you share with them today? Maybe one or two insights or personal anecdotes or experiences you want to share with them that you want them to bring with them into their lives or into perhaps maybe just the next cycle. What would you want to share with them? Let's take a few moments to do that. Tammy, thank you so much for your donation. Angela, thank you so much for your donation and your presence here. Let's see, Alexandra says, I had some understanding of it, but you created a huge, colorful understanding of this monthly cycle. That is so great. Margie says, yes, thank you for this. It puts life in so much perspective. Margie says, would share to honor and listen to their bodies. Thank you for sharing that. That is so precious to me, and I'm so glad to hear that. Let's give a few more moments in case if anyone would like to share something you would like to share with someone you love, to witness or to let them cherish and to cement in their practice in their lives. Angela has just shared in the chat, we are connected to something greater. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing, Angela. Keep the space open for anyone who would like to share. In the meanwhile, I will scroll back to the top to those of us who have shared our curiosities and our intentions at the beginning of the circle, to make sure that I've addressed most of your questions. So I think Alexandra mentioned, curious what actions or thoughts could be of benefit to me during my menstruation phase. I think we definitely chatted about that. Angela said, how I can connect with an irregular menstrual cycle. So the first way would be to track your cycle from day one. Day one is the first day of your bleed until the end of the bleed before the first day of the next cycle. And do that for at least around 3 to 5 cycles to understand roughly what your cycle looks like. And also, if you are on birth control, that might be quite different. If you've just gotten off birth control for the first time, there are some women I work with who have had birth control for a very, very long time, since adolescence until they want to start to conceive. So once you do that, because your body has been ignoring these cycles for so long from these pharmaceuticals, what happens is that transition phase might take some time. So being kind to yourself as you start to transition and as these cycles start to begin to shift, then you track them, and over time you start to notice, oh, there are some patterns. Maybe day 19 is often the day when I feel irritable or low on energy. Maybe day 1 is usually a day where I let myself be. So looking for trends, and the more data you have, the more you track and the more you observe and notice yourself, the better you will become at predicting the next cycle, at noticing, okay, before I even experience the cramps, before I even experience My lows or the anxiety, I know it might happen. I know this is when I will be most likely to feel this way. So I set myself up well. I make sure I have the resources in place so I take good care of myself before that happens. So that is one of the most helpful ways I find to, even if you don't have an irregular cycle, for those of you who have a regular cycle, this sense of awareness of where you are in that cycle, in that season. Just like if we know autumn is coming, we dress differently and we eat seasonally as well. And we don't try to act like we are in summer and go out in shorts and a tank top, right? When it's extremely windy and cold. So same idea and principle here. Let's see. We had a few. Tammy's question or curiosity from before was connecting feelings and emotions I experienced throughout the month. I think we talked a little bit about that, and each of the 5 elements, each of the seasons of the cycle are associated with different emotions in balance and when out of balance. And you can start to notice your tendencies as they shift throughout the seasons. Again, this is an archetype. So your experience is the most important. I would say that is the sovereign, is the most important. And then you can see, okay, does this kind of relate to me? Does this pattern and this structure or framework that I offered to you, does this correspond to your experience? Maybe yes, or maybe not. And then you start to use this to create your own framework that then you can observe over your next cycles, your next weeks, months, and years to notice and understand yourself better because your experience will be unique. And Bree's curiosity from before was how I can better manage energy throughout my cycle. I think we definitely tapped into that. We talked about how rest is really crucial and a basic human right during the period. We talked about how for many menstruating individuals during ovulation, that is when many of us report being the most energetic. Again, this might not necessarily be the case. I've personally experienced times during ovulation where I was absolutely wasted. And this might be relating to other circumstances, or if during your previous period, your last cycle, you did not rest properly, or if you overexerted yourself during a certain time during the cycle, then that might not reflect a so-called typical cycle. If you do have a typical cycle, everything feeds into everything else. And Stephanie mentioned from the start that was recently off birth control and trying to regulate, improving my diet, trying to minimize stress. That is a very big transition, moving from birth control to off birth control. If you are considering doing that and that is an option for you, I really encourage you to do that. Birth control can be helpful if you have an irregular cycle and you want it to be more regular. But if you're hoping to conceive, definitely moving off birth control and being more aware of your cycle and working with your internal rhythms, that is so important. Paying attention to your body and allowing it and working with rather than controlling or working against it, I think would be the most helpful. Okay, so let's see. We have a few more shares that came in. Kim has shared that her sharing with someone that she would love from today would be to love yourself the most and put yourself first and take time for rest and self-care. Yes, be kind to yourself. Tammy's advice to someone else would be to compassionately ask yourself, what does my beautiful body need at this time of my cycle, to find practices that best support your rest and well-being. Listen to the messages your body is sharing with you. That is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So thank you everyone for being here and choosing to spend your time, your energy, and your presence with me. I really believe that there are no coincidences and everything happens for a reason. There are so many things you could be doing today at this time, yet you chose to be here. And for that, for all the things and all the things, circumstances and things that happen for this to be possible, I acknowledge, I appreciate, and I thank them. Thank you to you. Thank you to Insight Timer. Thank you to my partner, my dog, who has cooperated with us to make this circle possible.